having a few technical difficulties. I couldn't get my screen to do the thing. Hello. You guys have said I won't be able to stay long, and I won't be able to stay long either. I don't know how long I'm going to be able to make tonight's one because my daughter is on a 2-year-old thing today. So if we have to cut this short, then we'll come back in a couple of days and have another go. So is there anything that anyone wants to talk about before I get into anything? Because the whole point of these is for you guys to have a voice and a platform and a place to talk and to find advice, not just from me, but from other people who are here as well. If you're there and you can hear me, let me know. If you can't hear me, let me know. And I would love to get talking with some of your questions, whether it's about life stuff or baking stuff. I'm here for everything. Awesome. Got my laptop as well in case I've got things I need to type. This is only my second live stream, so we'll see how things go. I like the idea of it being relatively open-ended so that we can change and evolve with what we need to as we go, because it's for me, but it's also for everybody. It's for you guys that I'm doing these, and I want to be able to provide the support for the people who need it, and this is actually really good for me too. Here's my thing. Unfortunately, my son Nick won't be able to join us tonight. He starts year 11 tomorrow, so he had to go to bed early. Otherwise, he did want to stay up, but just a little bit too late for him today. I'm going to bed. I'm sorry. Red Fox Adventures, year 11. Ah, yes. My account is being weird. Yeah, that's a bit of a thing that happens a lot when you're trying out these, whether you're watching them or joining them and trying to do them yourself. Live streams on here aren't as easy as they sound. Other channel. Ah, fair enough. Is that you, Nick? I would kind of half not be surprised if it was. And I've got my mug, my fancy novelty mug. It is Nick. Hi, Nick. Ah, poor bugger. But he's got his head switched on. Hi, Nick. Feel free to come and say hello at some point. I think if most of these are going to be on the 1st of the month. This particular time, the 1st of the month wasn't the easiest thing to do because we went away for the weekend. But when they're on the weekend, I'm going to try to get Nicholas to come out and hang out with me and hang out with you and hang out with himself, I guess, because he's usually the person who's on here with me. So we might be able to coax him into coming out and sitting here with me. He can have his own coffee. He doesn't have a novelty mug, but we'll get him one. Last time, the Horror Cat Dad said that he has a jack-o'-lantern novelty mug. I like the sound of that. I want to find one. Oh, he doesn't like the sound of staying up and being online. It's not as hard as it looks. If you're the type of person who, I actually had to get the hang of seeing where the camera was, because I kept looking at myself in the camera rather than looking at where the pointer is. So I had to put little stickers on it so that I could get my eye to see exactly where it is, because when you're filming, it's very hard to pinpoint where it is, but you get the hang of it. You do get used to where it is and where to look, and you get out of the habit of looking at yourself, but it's something that he may have to warm up to. Maybe he can come and sit here facing that way for a minute, and then when he warms up, he can turn around. Or he can sit just near me on his phone, I guess. Either way. So I thought while we're warming up, while we're waiting for a few people to join in, one thing that's been bugging me, and this is a little bit of a vent, so if you don't like venting, you're actually in the wrong place, because that's the point. That's the whole point of this, is that everyone gets a free chance to vent and offload their thoughts and opinions, and no one judges you. No one is allowed to judge you here. No one's allowed to be rude to anybody here. Everyone is encouraged to read through the comments and talk to each other down there, but no one can pass judgment in a negative way on here. It's just all open conversation. So the thing that's been bugging me, if you've been out of the looking at everything and if you haven't been hearing about anything, the Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni thing. I have a different reason to why most people are upset about it. My reason is a little bit more personal. I actually did know who Justin Baldoni was, because I used to watch Jane the Virgin. I binge watched the entire series, but it's something that really bothers me on a personal level when a person tries to use that particular context. I'm not going to say specifically what it is in this early in the video, because I want to make sure that I don't upset YouTube, but the whole situation revolves around he said, she said stuff. And it really, on a personal level, bothers me when someone tries to use that as an attack or as a manipulation tool against someone else, because my feelings were hurt. I didn't like this. I want to get in first and say my opinion before they have a chance to give their side of things. And especially the specific topic, and especially that we have seen more proof that he's in the right and she's in the wrong, and she's trying to whatever, whether it's actually happening that way or not, we'll have to wait and see. But to put my position in a bit more, I guess, context, I've been in his position before, and I was one of those few people who back in the day, as soon as something was said about Johnny Depp, I instantly saw red flags. I instantly didn't believe any of the stuff that was being said about him, and it turned out that he was right, and that people were lying about him in particular, and that all of the accusations were wrong. I had a gut feeling that she was lying in that situation, and we found out very publicly, a little bit triggering kind of to watch the whole series of the court case, because I did actually watch as much of that as I could possibly sit through. There were a few days where I really I had to separate, because it was too close to home. It was triggering me a little bit too much, so I had to own that and separate myself from it. But I just had a gut feeling that there was something not right because of her way of presenting the situation, and the same thing's happening now. There are a few too many things in this situation that scream red flag to me, as someone who has lived through this kind of arena of stuff. And unfortunately, a lot of people can't really grasp the inside edge of what it's like to feel that way unless you've been in there. Hello, my new lens. Hello, you say hi, I say hi. If you're only just joining me, I'm kind of venting a few of my things while we waited for a few people to join in. At this point in time, there's no particular set ending to any of these live streams that we do. There'll definitely be an intended start time, and that may change depending on how things go over the next few months, but it'll be open-ended, because I'm a bit of a late night person anyway. I stay up late, I get up early, it's just the way it is. But as long as people want to be here and talk, and as long as my daughter stays asleep, I'll be here. And hopefully you guys will stay here with me. Yes, you're a night owl too. I thought you were going to bed. Maybe you can come out and say hello, since you're awake anyhow. Well, I didn't want to make a video about the Blake Lively stuff because everyone's doing it and they're all covering the legalities of it and all covering the details of it. And I'm watching a lot of them, especially Popcorn Planet. If you don't watch Popcorn Planet, that's pretty much where I go to for all of my stuff when I'm watching anything about news anywhere. But but it's something that I didn't want to double down on what everybody else is doing. I have experience in certain aspects of that, and I have a perspective that has not yet been spoken about. But it's something that we may know before it even gets to trial exactly what's going on, just because one person says one thing and someone else is actually demonstrating the proof. It kind of, if you even if I didn't have the personal perspective to see more angles of the situation, I would probably describe it as a parent. I would describe it as like watching two siblings back and forth, telling you who's right and who's wrong, and trying to be the first person to have their opinion said the loudest. They say that the person who speaks the loudest in a crowd is usually the person with the wrong opinion or the person who's in the wrong. And at the moment, they're kind of just bickering at each other. And she's saying stuff, telling him to stop saying stuff. And he's not really saying stuff, he's showing the receipts. So I want to believe him a little bit more than I believe her. And you'd think that someone like me that's been through stuff is more like, especially since I'm a girl, is more likely to believe the chick every time. And people are people. I believe the person who is most accurate in the topic. I have a background in science. I think I'm pretty smart. I consider myself academically trained. I've got academic backing. So I am more likely to judge a person on their actions over what they say. And if someone has proof, I'm going to lean into that proof while waiting to see what else. I don't just blindly believe everything. I always believe that there are two sides to every story, and in this, we are going to find out sooner or later who's in the right and who's in the wrong. But there's a good chance she's in the wrong, and she's not demonstrating anything that would indicate that that's an inaccurate statement. We just have to wait and see. And if they do the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing and they do televise it, I will absolutely be watching it. I probably shouldn't, because that kind of stuff does bother me to watch it, especially when one person is very obviously trying to throw someone under the bus for something they didn't do. I've said this before, I've got 4 sisters, but I've got 2 older sisters who are from my father's first marriage, and then there's another one, then me, and then a younger one. So in my dynamic, I grew up in a house of 3 girls where I was the middle child. And my mum very much falls into the stereotypical parent who pushes that kind of concept on their kids. So I was very much treated like the middle child and told how much I was the middle child and the stereotypes that all go with that. And it did shape me because of those things, but I try not to let that affect my kids. Mine I don't treat in that way, but because of that experience, I actually have had the younger sibling doing stuff and then running away and saying, she said this or she did that, because she got there first. Not because something actually happened, but it's something that you learn to expect from certain people, and Blake Lively is absolutely showing those colors to herself. And when it comes to, if on top of that, even if she hadn't made accusations and it hadn't gone in that direction, if we close that box and just talk about the movie versus the book, they say you should never watch the movie if you like the book. You should never read the book if you like the movie. And I agree with that. I grew up with Harry Potter. I watched it before even trying to read it. So I'm very much that kind of keep them separate, see them as two separate entities kind of person. But when Justin very much from the beginning said, I want to demonstrate for the purpose of the deeper elements in the book, for the DV elements in the book, he wanted to make that the central focus to the movie. And he always said that when he did interviews and stuff, even afterwards. And even now, he's saying that that was the primary point. He wanted to focus on that because I think I heard there was an interview where he said that his mother had something to do with the same kind of thing. So he had a personal stake in that topic, which is hard to find for a lot of people. But it's nice that if you know anything about Justin Baldoni at all, and I can tell you a few things that I've learnt recently. I'm just going to fix this for a second. I said I used to watch Jane the Virgin, so I already knew of him, and I knew that he existed. I knew who he was, but it didn't really bother me or matter to me about the extra feminist stuff that he does, because everyone should be allowed to think and feel and behave the way they want to. And if that's what he wants to do with his platform, I think that's great. I don't think it's necessary for a person to go out of their way to be a spokesperson for someone else on somebody else's behalf, which is kind of where that falls into. But he is a type of person who seems to portray a genuine personality in everything he's been doing so far. It's consistent. And he seems very genuinely to care about the aspects of DV from a female perspective, as I said, because he apparently, I say apparently when I don't know for certain, it's just something that I've heard, that his mother had experiences that made him feel that he needed to be a part of this particular project, which is great. And it's a book that I haven't had the chance to get a hold of yet, because I'm trying to find one that doesn't have Blake Lively on the cover, to be honest. And they all seem to at the moment. I haven't found one that doesn't have her on it. So I'm going to get one when I find that. And I might actually buy one online. I did see somewhere online, it might have even been Amazon online, had two versions of the book. Somewhere had two versions, one with her on the cover and one was the original print. So I'm going to get the one that doesn't have her on it, because I would rather see it before all of this happened. But it did rub me up the wrong way as a person who's gone through DV, as a victim of DV who has survived DV, to see someone who clearly has no interest in that aspect to it, telling people to drink alcohol that she's selling, even though she doesn't drink it, and wear floral dresses and go to the movies with your girlfriends and be just all happy and lovey. And she has got movies that are very based around her being this happy, pretty, oh, just love me kind of blue-eyed blonde lady who is very pretty, but doesn't have, from a filmmaker's perspective, doesn't really have much to the character other than I'm pretty and I need you to be in love with me, and here are my dresses and I'm just pretty. And that's my opinion. I didn't watch Gossip Girl. I'm not that type of person. I watch, what can I say? I watched Hemlock Grove. I watch X-Files. I watch stuff like that. Buffy, obviously, like what person who went through the 90s and early 2000s didn't obsess about Buffy? Men or women, doesn't matter. And I was never drawn to that kind of Gossip Girl type of show, so it's not something that I was interested in at all. But I think The Age of Adeline was my first experience with Blake Lively, really. When she was in Green Lantern, I had no idea who she was. And it was only through Ryan Reynolds that I think a lot of people really, who didn't watch Gossip Girls, knew who she was. So it is pretty normal to not know certain actresses because they step away. They get married, they step away. And that's normal. It's same with women who aren't actresses. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it means that I didn't know who she was as much as I knew who he was. And her coming into it and trying to treat something that had such a heavy element of importance to it, which could have had a significant cultural impact, like normalizing the speaking up when it came to DV, normalizing the idea that DV is not some taboo subject that you have to abbreviate down to DV so that we don't upset people who've never experienced it or never had the context of understanding that. Just, it doesn't make sense to me that she would try so hard to belittle the concept that she was paid to work for. You're an actress, you are supposed to do the role you're given. The director is the one who tells you what to do. That's normal. You're an actress, do your job. But if she thinks that it's okay to almost pretend that the movie she's in has nothing to do with DV, I almost said it. You should be able to say it, but you can't. As someone who went through it and survived it, I should have extra reason to be capable of saying it, but I can't. And pretending that it doesn't exist is currently the norm. And hopefully we can change that so that we can save more women and men, because men experience it too. And this is almost exactly something that goes into that. I heard, I don't remember who it was, it might have been Candace Owens. Someone was speculating that she was a bit flirtatious with him and that, like, he's very happily married, she's happily married, they both are, so it shouldn't have been a thing anyway. But apparently she was extra flirtatious with him outside the movie, and he didn't reciprocate because a very happily married man doesn't notice when he's being flirted with. And he's a very good actor. I think he's one of those very good love interest kind of actors from what I've seen, especially from Jane the Virgin, especially because he's got like 4 love interests in that one. And nobody ever said anything negative about him in that as far as I know. But she has a reputation already of getting a little bit extra flirtatious with her co-stars. And I really don't remember who it was that said it, but saying that she was flirtatious with him, he didn't lean into it, so he then got pinned with the kind of manipulative, passive-aggressive thing that a rejected woman would typically do, because it's, hate to say it, but it is a very stereotypical thing that is true, and a lot of stereotypes are true. And I completely believe that. Everything that's been coming out recently kind of leans into that and says that is an accurate prediction. So as we keep learning more, I hope that we find out what the truth is and we can go from there. And if it is true that she's trying to basically rip him to shreds the way she is because she's feeling petty, I believe in karma. I believe karma is a very good friend of mine sometimes. And I believe that karma doesn't like women, especially who attack people for no good reason. I actually have one of my sisters is going through a little bit of karma of her own. I'm not going to go beyond that point because I don't need to. I don't consider myself petty, but she said something and did something particularly heinous for a person, let alone a sister. So karma is not really her friend anymore. But that's a different story. Does anybody here have anything they want to talk about? Because I'm quite happy to keep talking. I like talking. I have been told I can talk underwater, and I think I would try that if I wasn't afraid of getting my eyelashes wet. But I want to be able to provide here as a space, not just for me, to vent my thoughts and opinions and frustrations even. I don't currently have any frustrations except that my coffee is cold. but when you're a mum, you drink cold coffee. Sometimes you drink cold coffee just because it's easier than making a fresh one. And sometimes you drink cold coffee because you don't want to microwave your special mug, which is what happened here. I didn't want to microwave my special mug because I don't want to accidentally break my tiger. So cold coffee it is. Bit of cream, a few ice cubes, maybe a little bit of caramel, and it's not cold coffee anymore. It's an iced coffee on purpose. But if there's anything that you guys come up with throughout the month that you want help talking through, because that's the other reason, like, this is really good for me to be able to talk through stuff that I'm experiencing. But if you guys have stuff that you want to talk through, because sometimes you just need a sounding board, someone to say and get you and understand you and offer you advice if you want it, not because they have an opinion about it, but because sometimes you don't need an opinion. Sometimes you just need to get stuff out of your head and off your chest. And then sometimes you do actually want someone to offer you advice, and you would be shocked and stunned and not the least bit amazed by how many different negative, why is it happening to me kind of things have happened to me. So it's something just fell down in the other room. Wonder if that means that someone's awake that shouldn't be awake. I know Nicholas has gone to bed, but that's the other room. I'll know in a minute. If that, because that sounded like it was coming from Theodore's room. If he's awake, he's going to be out here and he'll probably say hi because he's a little bit less like camera shy than Nick. But that's okay too. If there's anything that even pops up and we're not doing a live chat, there are several different places you can message me as well. On my homepage, I actually have a website. I'm still in the development phase of it, but it's because I don't really have anything to put on there right this minute. It's currently just a contact email, so you can email me through there, and it's a great way for you to anonymously or just privately send me I'm going through this, I want to chit chat kind of private message. If you on your own just want to get something off your chest, or if you want personalized advice. And some of these live streams in the future, we will do targeted, these people said things and they want to talk through stuff. And I don't ever have to use your name. Obviously, I don't have to use specifics, but I can use what you want to talk about as a generalized analysis of a concept, so that it's not only helping whoever sent the message in, but it's helping anyone else going through similar situations, because you would be surprised how many situations happen which are almost carbon copies of something that someone else has been through. And sometimes you don't realize how not alone you are until you hear that these people have all gone through the same thing. Part of why I connected so much with the Johnny Depp stuff is because the same thing happened to me. The only thing that was different is that Johnny Depp was older, the person who hurt me was older, and the person who hurt me got me pregnant at the same time. And I was able to get away, obviously. I'm here and I'm good. And that was a long time ago now, and it's been a big recovery between here and there. But I'm in a place where I can actually provide insight and see red flags a mile away. I went through the stages of denying the red flags, not noticing them, then denying them, then noticing them but being upset that I missed them the first time around, and then noticing them and talking about them too much, and then trying not to notice them because I didn't want to talk about them so much. And I'm currently at the stage where it's like, that's a red flag. I just don't need to go over there. Does that person want to know it's a red flag? And just go from there. Like, I've seriously gone through all the many different cycles of it. And I can self-analyze myself and almost laugh at my reaction to certain things. In hindsight, I actually spoke to someone the other day about self-analysis. There's a certain stage of recovery that you go through before you can learn, this happened to me and it's okay to talk about it. And then one of the next milestones, a few milestones down the road, is eventually getting to the point where you are self-analyzing, but not critically about, what am I trying to say? You're not being critical about yourself or judgmental about yourself when you're analyzing yourself. You're almost able to see yourself across the table when you are analyzing. So you're aware and you can see and correct. And you may not be able to stop. There are certain things that will trigger you when you're someone who has a reason to be in recovery for anything. This is like literally anything, whether it's substance abuse or eating situations, or if it's a mental situation. No matter what kind of recovery you're in, you can actually get to a point where you are analyzing what you do without judging yourself. And that's kind of the goal, but you may never lose some of the little things. So you always have to watch yourself. I've described it before as very similar to either gaining a horn or losing a leg. And I know that obviously it's not the same thing, but certain aspects of trauma do actually present in the same way as losing a leg, because losing a leg is a type of trauma. So there's reasons why they would be very interlocked and blend together in that way. But I can analyze myself, and the person I was talking to is someone who very much should be able to, and hopefully they can. But sometimes even when you analyze yourself, having people around you who can analyze you too is also going to help. So by having these live streams, even if I'm talking to myself, it's still beneficial to me. It's still beneficial to anyone who comes in and watches it later, because last time there were maybe 18 people watching at one time, but it's now up to like 300 views on that live stream after it was on. So who knows where this one will go, and who knows how this one will shape the next one. But it's good to do things like that in a group. So we may even do baking stuff. I obviously like baking. Baking is it's one of my hobbies, but not my only hobby. I'm one of those people who likes a lot of different things, and depending on the mood that I'm in, I might do one of the other things. So I sing a lot, and I especially sing when there's like a level that you get to when you're tired, and it's like tired but can't fall asleep. I sing a lot when I'm in that kind of hazy point, but it's a good way to make you happy even when you're sad. If you've never seen any of my videos before, and this is your first interaction with me, let me know in the comments as well, because I never know who I'm going to see when I'm doing these live streams. So far, I can only ever see when someone's typing, but I've got no idea who's on there at one time. So I very easily could just be talking to myself. I've got no idea. I'm touching my microphone a lot, so I'm probably getting a lot of like alien interference on my microphone. Who knows? Maybe I should wear my headphones and find out what I actually sound like when I'm on a live stream. That would make it a little bit interesting. Have to wear my hair different. Headphones don't go on my head very easily because I have a small head and my headphones are never the right size. They're either too small or too big and they fall off. Maybe get some of those plug-in ear ones that just loop over my ears so I can hear, but they aren't interfering with my hair. Not that my hair is all that great today. We went away to the coast for the weekend. Josh had his first lot of post-op scans. He had his operation in November and he's about to go back and see the surgeon in a couple of weeks, and he had to have blood tests and scans and stuff. So the best place for us was to travel out to the coast and get them done there, because there aren't that many places to go where we are. We were in the Hunter, so there's just not that many options here, and the ones that are here are, I don't want to say not that reliable, but compared to the coast, it's a lot less reliable here. Timing wise, it takes us an hour to get to town, so because we're on the farm, but it is what it is. You kind of can't stress too much. You can't let yourself get too stressed about anything really, and especially dealing with cancer stuff, it's really important not to overstress about stuff because that can have an even deeper impact on him. So we're making a point of not getting stressed and just waiting to see what happens. But I won't be able to go to the appointment when he goes to the surgeon, so I don't know what they're going to say. And that does make me nervous because I have a background in medicine, cancer research specifically. So sometimes the doctors will say certain things and then repeat them differently. And Josh hears them say certain things, and I don't know what his understanding of how they say it is, but I can, because I have the actual personal experience working in cancer research, I hear things and I notice things, and I instantly, my brain goes, and I can like almost picture a whiteboard in my head that like this is this, and here's all the spider web of possibilities based on what the doctor is saying at that point in time, because there are so many ways of interpreting what they're saying, but there's also so many possibilities of what could be going on based on that thing. So when we actually got the diagnosis, that's exactly what happened. My brain went to, okay, whiteboard, doctor says this, that means this, 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 that could be this and this and this. And there's even a possibility that I stopped listening to the doctor at some point and just my brain went into research mode, because I've got the experience having done that before and I understand it very well. When I was working at the university in Sydney, when I had free time, I actually went into the library to read up on some of the extra medical research things that had already happened, because they had a catalogue of, here are all the different research things that we've done and this is where we're up to with different things. And I would just read through all of them because that is the type of reading I like. I'm not the type of person who would normally read a book unless it was like really thick educational based. Like I grew up reading encyclopedias just because I enjoyed the extra stuff. Like that's why I never read the Harry Potter books, because watch the movie, read an encyclopedia. Watch the next movie, read a different encyclopedia. So I think there's ooh, this is interesting. One of my chickens was taken by a fox, and there has been a set of foxes hanging out, taking advantage of the fact that the moon's taking a long time to come up. So my chickens are really being hunted by a set of foxes that are so keen to get to my chickens that when I have them in the house overnight, these foxes are scratching at the doggy door because they can smell that my chickens are in the house. It's freaky, because if I'm sitting where I am now, I'm in my dining room, and Josh built a like a bench seat here, and like it's a nice cozy spot now. But I was sitting here, and you can't see it, but my door is on that side, and I've got windows and then windows that way, and then it's the door. And so if I've got this window open, which I do now, you can hear anything at the step really easily because it's just old farmhouse steps. So I heard something on the steps, and it's glass door with a metal doggy door that's got a lock on it. And this thing scurrying around on the steps could have been anything. We have lizards and geckos and frogs and I think rats. Either a possum or a rat, they both freak me out. But right there, something big enough that it could have been a dog scratching at the doggy door. I look out the window, turn on the light, fox right at my doggy door. I don't like when critters get into the house. I'm not twitchy about spiders or snakes or anything like that. I will quite happily pick up a spider and take it outside. I am an Aussie girl after all. But foxes, bats, possums, especially brush-tailed possums. If you've lived in Australia and you've ever had a brush-tailed possum come in at night because something's been left open or there's a screen door that they would just happen to be able to get into, that's one of the scariest things. And I like watching scary movies. That's fine. But waking up to find a fox or a brush-tailed possum or a bat in the house absolutely does my head, and I can't take that. I'll actually tell you a story. Since no one's in my chat talking, I'm going to chat anyway. When Josh and I first moved from the coast out to the farm, first thing we did was we lived in a caravan, and it was one of those caravans from a caravan park, which they were getting rid of them, so we bought one, and it came with the annex thing that goes on the side of it. So it was basically small house sized, but it was just getting away from the coast, downsizing, going on to like an off the grid kind of situation. And one of the first things, the first couple of weeks that we were there, Josh went back to the coast for a bit, and the first night I heard something. We had just turned off all the lights, and our dog, she's actually a dingo. I don't know if I mentioned that. I have a dingo, a real dingo. How Aussie is that? But her name is Zara, and she was in the caravan with me, and my boys, Nick was 6 and Theodore was like 1, and approximately, like I don't know about that. But they were in their beds on one side of the caravan, and then there's a kitchen in the middle, and then there was a queen size bed on this side, and kind of between my bed and the kitchen was a door going down into the annex with stairs. And Zara, the dog, the dingo, she was on the bed with me, and I just turned off the light, and you know those really big moths? It sounded like a bird or a really big moth was flying around, and all you could hear was like the fluttering. I wasn't sure if I heard something, so I turned on the lights and nothing. And then I turned it off, I heard it again, and Zara, she was off the bed, she was under the bed, she obviously heard it too, but when the light went back on, I couldn't see anything except for the dog duck under the bed and abandon me. How brave is that? Dingo running away from whatever it was. And turned the light off again, and I heard it again. But by now I've got the cover over me because my dog has just abandoned me to whatever it was that was making the noise. I'm under the sheet like this. I heard it. I flicked the light back on because I had a switch here somewhere, and this bat, a micro bat, was flying around. It's about the size of one of those big moths, which is why it sounded like that, flying in circles around above my head. It absolutely scared the hell out of me. I have never been, in recent years, I've never been that scared. It freaked the hell out of me. You know that all the stories you hear about bats transmitting diseases and stuff like that. I was not only freaking out for me, but I was freaking out it was going to give me a disease, it was going to touch me, because I don't like moths flying at me either. I'm very much a girl when it comes to moths, and I'm not ashamed to admit it. I like being a girl, even if it means that moths scare the life out of me. But the, the dog vanished. She just didn't care that I was up there by myself. The boys were fast asleep. They didn't know that anything was happening until I started screaming. And Nicholas actually had to rescue me. I couldn't speak. I couldn't calm down. I couldn't do anything to help myself because I was so early in my noticing that I had trauma that it was something that I couldn't calm myself down once I got up to a certain level of freaked out. And that's pretty normal for a lot of people who have a trauma response to something. But he woke up because he heard me freaking out. The lights are all on. Theodore's still asleep. Nicholas closed the door into their space because there was a door between their bedroom and the kitchen. And I had a curtain between my bed and the kitchen. So I'm trying to get that closed and hoping that the bat doesn't fly over the top. But Nicholas had to ring Josh. So Mum's freaking out because there's a bat in the caravan. And then he had to talk Nicholas through how to deal with the bat because I couldn't, because I was so scared of the bat. And it was only like this big. I've seen heaps of them since then. If you go outside right now, you hear this little chirping sound, and it's them just ducking to try and catch moths in the air. And they get inside the tractors, they get inside the shed. If you leave something outside long enough and it's got a hole in it, they'll go inside of it. I don't think I'm ever going to be able to do these bats. But not long after that, a boy in Queensland got bitten by a bat and got rabies, so I felt justified in my fear. But that's kind of one of those things that when you are triggered by something else and you have a trauma response that is fear related, it doesn't matter what's happening, your brain goes into flight mode or freeze mode. You're more likely to go into fight mode if the thing is something that already got you to a fight position. I think now I might have a bit of a fight response, but I don't know. I think Josh would probably say I'm still in the flight mode, because even when we argue about stuff, my instinct is don't want to talk, I want to leave, because I don't like arguing either. I'm not a competitive person. I don't think I'm an aggressive person. I think I'm a very defensive person, and I'm aware of that. So that goes back to the self-analysis. I am aware of these traits in myself, and I'm aware of the things that cause it. And there are some times where if I'm triggered by something, it might take me a minute to even notice that I'm triggered, or I may need someone to say something to me. But I've actually had to teach Josh how to say to me that I'm triggered by something when I'm triggered in a way that doesn't make it worse. So if you're the spouse of someone who has a trigger response, that's something that you guys may need to talk about to find the right way to discuss a situation that they need to calm down from. Or if you're the person who has a trauma response, finding the things that are most likely to cause you stress or distress. Say to your spouse, if this happens, this is most likely why. This might be the thing that caused it. And that's what I want to hear when I'm in that situation. And it may take you quite a while of experiencing it and deciding in the moment, I'm feeling this thing, what is it? And doing the self-analysis to get to that point where you can then talk to your spouse and say, this is the thing we need to do together, because you are a team. Whether you mean to be triggered or not doesn't matter. we never mean to be triggered really, but, and you may never get away from being triggered. There may always be something that does it. I am pretty triggered by people in the kitchen holding knives for good reason. I don't know how much of the specifics of some of my stuff I've said, because I don't want to trigger anyone. So I don't want to go into too much detail. That's why I kind of use my kind of artistic language in saying something. So if you are someone who doesn't have the context to recognize, oh, she means this, then that's good, because you've never experienced this for it to be in your catalogue of instances to think of. Like what I just said then, unless you've been through something similar to what I experienced, or maybe seen a movie or a TV show where it's like happened there, because there are a few TV shows and movies that I can't watch because of stuff. It's probably not something that you know what I mean when I say it. So while I want to help, I also don't want to make things worse for anyone who has a thing going on, because, and I say a thing going on not in any way to belittle the situations, because everyone who has experienced a thing has a different way of talking about it and has a different way of expressing where they're at in their recovery. But it's kind of important to simultaneously know what you mean and be careful not to make things worse for someone else, because you never know what stage of recovery somebody else is in, regardless of where you're at. Sometimes the best thing to do is quietly listen. Sometimes if you know someone who has experienced a thing, sometimes they don't want to say anything. Sometimes they don't want you to say anything. Sometimes they are not able to discuss it in straight out terms or hear it, because it takes a while to get to that point. It took me, I think, if you ask me, I'd probably say it took maybe 3 years to even acknowledge verbally or in any way even that it happened to me. Immediately after I got out of that situation and I went through all of the court stuff about it, there was a lot of very numb talk, tick, tick. And then I disassociated. I didn't want anything to do with it. I almost, looking back on that time in my life, I was very much not there for it. I guess part of me mentally was not ready to handle it that early. And a few years into my relationship with Josh, I started to notice things, and it might be because I was in a relationship when these things happened. It may be that I didn't notice any of these things being an issue for me until I was in another relationship. So it's something that doesn't always look as cut and dry as someone who's never experienced it wants it to be. And tell you what, he's a very strong man. That's why he's been able to cope with the whole cancer thing the way he has been, because it's not an easy thing to be the spouse of someone who has trauma, or to be the spouse of someone who has anything mental or emotional going on that that person is still working through. Because if you don't have the experience yourself to go through it with them, you don't know exactly where they're at with everything. You need to be able to have the perspective and the context in order to have the understanding in the first place. So he's gone through a lot of rough stuff with me through my stuff, and now that I'm able to handle my stuff, I want to be here for you guys. And I was I was saying to Nick earlier today that maybe one of the things that we can do as well is because I actually really enjoy these live streams. It's a little difficult for me to get away from my daughter sometimes because she's very much a I want to snuggle when I'm sleeping kind of person. So she wakes up, I just have to go. There's no like bye kind of thing. But it's this doesn't always have to be about mental health as well. Like coming up in the future, I might have instead of being on the first of the month doing a mental health check-in, we might do it if you've got baking questions. We might set everything up and we can bake cookies together. We can make a cake together. We can go start to finish, bake a cake. I actually have a cake that I really, really like that I haven't made in a long time. It's a Victoria sponge, but it's a variant. It's still a sponge, but I use rose water instead of vanilla. And I use sugar, but not that much sugar. And I use egg yolk instead of egg whites. And it's a whole thing. It's my version, and it's much richer, but it's very fragrant. And you can put whatever fruit you want on it. I personally don't like strawberries, which is why I changed the recipe a little bit. But I really like the smell of roses. So I tried this and it's pretty brilliant if I do say so myself. So maybe we'll find something and we'll do a baking video and you can ask me baking questions and we can go through that together as well. It doesn't always have to be about this, but sometimes being with people is better than not having someone. And I know that very well as well. I know I've got a pretty nice family at the moment, but I didn't always. And my sister that I do get along with, she lives in Perth, but that doesn't help me when I'm in New South Wales. So, although my niece is moving over here, and that's something that I am very excited about. And if she's around, I'm going to be around. She was my practice baby. I was 18 when she was born, and I was just moving over from New South Wales to Perth because I lived there for a while too. And it was one of the best things in the world to have this beautiful little girl and watch her grow up. And now I feel super old when I think about how old she's getting and how old Nicholas is getting. But I really enjoy the fact that she's going to be over here for a little bit, even if it's only for a few months. I haven't seen her for a few years. So anything is better than not getting the chance to see her. And she's all grown up and she's moving, and my sister is obviously handling that in her own way. And like, as when Nicholas moves off and is in the Navy, I'm going to be handling it my own way. I was completely beside myself for the 2 weeks he was on the Young Endeavour, and I didn't know who else to talk to. he's my buddy. He's the person I talk to when I don't know what to talk about. He's the person who sees me at my weirdest. So my best friend is actually the mother of one of his best friends, and outside of her, Nicholas is the person that knows me at my weirdest and loves me anyway. So I guess I do completely understand her side of things. That's that thing again. Ooh. It's either I worry that it's the fox. I really do. Because it's very close to the house. It's been trying. My chickens have a pen outside, and I keep them inside in a dog crate when I need to, but it's been trying to dig into their pen outside. So I'm kind of listening out for it while making sure that their pen outside is secure. So I get the anxieties when, like, just at the idea of losing my chickens. I love my birds, probably more than I need to. Every little noise makes me think it might be the fox. Anyways. other than that, it's very quiet tonight. And I don't mind that. Sometimes it doesn't need to be busy. Sometimes it doesn't need to be crazy. Sometimes it doesn't need to be too much of anything. And if people want to turn up, then they can turn up. And if you have questions, you can ask me questions, because I like to talk. And I can probably always find something to talk about too. Like, are there any people, whether you're watching this while we're live or watching this in the playback, if you grew up with the Gremlins, I saw the most awesome thing the other day. It was just the most basic ad that you could possibly imagine. It said at the bottom, coming soon, and on the top, like big vacant gap everywhere. On the top, it was a claw hand, the 3-claw hand coming down with like green slimy stuff coming off it, and it was a gremlin hand. It had no other writing than coming soon. And I was so excited. It's one of those movies that when I found out there was a second one, I instantly made sure that my kids knew about it. I think I made Nicholas watch it. He'll probably back me up. I probably force him to watch a lot of movies so that he has the full scope of stuff. We do a lot of movie references and TV references and stuff because I'm a 90s kid. Of course we're going to talk about movie references. I'm a 90s kid. Of course it's going to be yet another movie reference that has something to do with something that was made long before you were born. But anyway, eventually everything old becomes new, and at least this is not a reboot. This is an extra one that I think, how did the second one end? Ooh, it's been a while since I've even seen the second one. The second one, if you haven't seen Gremlins and you haven't seen Gremlins 2, I think Gremlins 1 is on Netflix at the moment, and Gremlins 2 was on Stan. We don't have TV, so we just, if we want to watch something, we stream it. We have Starlink, so we just instantly stream whatever we want to watch. So we don't have to wait for anything. And where we live, there's no satellite TV anyway. There's no TV aerial on this house. It's just a really old house. And so there's no point getting too attached to regular TV. But the last time we had regular TV was 2014. So quite a long time. And so if you want to watch the second one, I won't give away too many spoilers, but it basically, how did it end? It ended in a way that the first one ended in a way that felt like an ending, and the second one ended in a way that felt like it ended but could have gone somewhere if there was an opportunity for it to go somewhere. And it's been a long time since the second movie. There was like a gap, maybe a couple of years gap between the first movie and the second movie, but there's been a long gap now. And some of the actors from the first movie were in the second movie, but some of the actors from both of those are actually no longer with us. So I got very quickly excited about that one. I'm very into movies, but I'm now keeping my eye out for several different movies. My youngest son, Theodore, he is very much into magic and is obsessed with Now You See Me and Now You See Me 2. And apparently there's a Now You See Me 3 coming out. So I'm gonna have to watch that one. I think there are just a few movies coming out which are a little bit exciting, and that's a good thing because there were so many really not exciting movies recently, and a couple of really disappointing, I don't want to say too bad, but disappointing that they couldn't have been new concepts. If you're into movies, there are a few people that are into movies and do movies specifically. I don't watch any one place for movies. I kind of just see what pops up. But I'm not doing movie videos here. We can chit chat about them. I'm more than happy to chit chat about them because I like movies, but I'm definitely not going to try and spiral off into a movie genre channel. Not unless you're in the mood for it, but I think there are enough people doing it that you don't need my input. I'll bring you the references. I'll bring you I'll bring someone in to negotiate. That gets said in our house a lot. Quite a lot of the time, I will actually say stuff to my kids that comes from a movie or comes from something that they've got no context for. So I have to put the movie on just to get it out of my system. And then they have this movie reference stuck in their heads for the rest of their lives. And I don't feel bad about that at all. I think everyone needs to send someone in to negotiate now and again. And if you know where the reference comes from, leave a comment and let me know where it comes from. It's a pretty easy one, actually. Right? I think it's an easy one. I did hear that some people don't like the movie or they find it annoying, which I can believe because when back in the day of VHS and DVDs, it was one of those things that if you enjoyed a movie and you were a little kid, you would put the same movie on over and over again because TV was like 4 channels. So if you wanted to watch something and you knew what it was, you would just put a VHS on or a DVD on. But I did have a sister hide stuff because they didn't want to watch the movie I wanted to watch, which is fair enough. Like, I wouldn't let my kids do it, but my mother let my sisters do it. There's only so many ways that your mother can tell you that you're not the favorite. And my mum perfected the saying it to my face. So I stopped seeing her. I don't need to be told that I'm not someone's favorite. I know I'm not for everybody. I know that I'm not everybody's favorite person. And nobody is everybody's favorite person. There is no one person except for maybe a few years ago I might have said Hugh Jackman was liked by everyone, but I think that's changing. Johnny Depp was everybody's favorite and then that changed and now it's kind of going back to that. But if you're here and you're watching me, even if you're watching me in hindsight, let me know that you're up to this far because I'm quite happy to keep talking while nobody else is awake. This time in the day is more or less my me time because especially during school time, because I do homeschooling with Theodore, this is kind of my alone time because everybody's asleep and Daphne is all over me all the time because she's 2 and I'm her favorite person, which I do enjoy having that connection with her. I never had a mother-daughter relationship before and now I do. It turns out I had to have a daughter to have one, and that's good. I do find random stuff to do. Sometimes I just watch movies myself. Sometimes I have a stand in the kitchen and I will do kitchen stuff or I will do other stuff and I will have my phone mounted up and play something and I'll just listen to it with my headphones on and it doesn't really matter what it is. Usually I've seen the movie 1,000 times. It's not often that I haven't already seen the movie by the time everybody else in the family wants to watch it. But yeah, that's okay too. I don't mind being alone. I think one of those things that my childhood really shaped me up for was self-reliance. I could be independent. I don't need to have people hovering on me all the time, but it also means that when I do have people hovering on me, like my kids, obviously they need me. But when they are hovering on me, I've got to make sure I'm self-analyzing during that time as well, because when you're not used to something, it can feel very strange to have people want you. So I'm not a stranger to being unwanted. And that's okay. I want me. I love me. It took me a long time to get to that point even, where I can enjoy my own company enough that I don't need validation from someone else. But I think that makes me uniquely qualified to notice when somebody else feels left out or isolated or unnoticed, because when you grow up in a house where you are told and then shown that other people are more important than you, it gets really hard to care about you. But finding a way for you to move on anyway, finding a way for you to notice and accept, that's the hard part, accepting the love from other people. Because if you grew up in that situation where people didn't demonstrate it to you when you were a child, it's kind of hard to accept it as truth when you're an adult. You get into the habit of, oh, well, my mother didn't love me and never hugged me, so there's something incorrect about you hugging me or you loving me or you wanting to spend time with me, because the person who was supposed to do it unconditionally not only wouldn't, but told me how unimportant it was. So I do see that in other people when they are limited in their ability to connect, because what they've been given kind of prevents that. Well, no one's really on tonight. It might be because it's what day are we on? It's a Monday? I think we're on a Monday today. So in the morning, it's going to be, I don't know, maybe the same day as when some of the Justin Baldoni stuff is coming out. I think what I heard this morning is that there's going to be new Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni stuff coming out in the morning, because it was the 3rd and now it's the 4th here. So in a few hours now it'll be the 3rd in America. So some of these things are going to come out and there's going to be even more news, and I may end up making a grr, I just can't take it any longer, cranky at her kind of video. It depends on what comes out next, because it seems like every other day there's he said something, she said something, he said something, she said something, and I think it's at the point now where she is refusing to have his lawyer give her a deposition, which is when his lawyer gets her side of the story and questions her on it, and it's a way of finding out how accurate she is, because if she gives a written list of this is my complaint, and then in her deposition says something that's not on her complaint, and tries to introduce something new, or if she changes some facts around, or if she leaves something out, it's an indication that she's probably lying. And she's trying really hard to prevent his lawyer from getting a hold of her deposition, because I guess what I'm hearing is that she might be nervous about him in particular because of his background. He's pretty good, apparently. He's one of the better people at giving depositions when it comes to defending people. And I've also heard he's a pretty good defense lawyer when it comes to celebrities. So he's been around the block a few times with the celebrity stuff. And what's his name? I don't even remember what his name was, but it sounded familiar. So it's obviously something that's happened recently that he's been involved with, that I recognize his name. And it's going to hit me like a brick, and I'm gonna get it after I'm off camera. It's gonna hit me. I'm gonna figure out who he is, and probably because I'm gonna Google it. I do quite heavily Google something. If I don't know it, I like learning. And he's probably someone who had something to do with a recent case, and that's why she's a bit nervous, because if he's really good at his job, then if she's lying, she'll get pulled up for it. But I don't know, we'll see how that goes. It's a little bit sketchy. Like everything's very, why is she getting away with it? I think she's playing on her I'm the woman thing, and that's not fair. If if you are a genuine victim like me and you've been there before, you get pretty rubbed up the wrong way when someone uses what you've lived through as kind of a tool to get their own way, which is what it feels like she's doing. And I would love to find out that's wrong. I would much rather find out that she's in the right and that he's in the wrong, and that it just feels like she's being manipulative about it, and that it feels like she's lying. I would much rather find that out than find out that she's trying this hard to use something such an important topic because she just is that person who doesn't care enough to see it as a relevant point. Like you'd think that like we've gotten to the point where we can acknowledge that these things happen to people, and this is a really important point. Like DV is possibly more important, probably, most likely, mental wellness is definitely more important than believe her because she's a woman, believe him because he's a man, believe this person because they have a something. None of that matters. Believe the facts, believe the evidence, believe the people who deserve to be believed because they are being honest, rather than believing someone because, oh, I told you that you need to believe me because I'm a girl. If you need someone to take your side because you're a girl, how is that not preference? How is that not privilege? How is that not honest and genuine? I don't want you to follow me because I'm a girl. I don't want you to follow me because I am talking a way that you enjoy. I don't want you to follow me because you like my recipes. I want you to follow me because you are getting something from our experience together. I want you to choose to be here with me because you're enjoying what you're gaining from this encounter with me. I'm probably very needy when it comes to the feeling wanted thing. So I'm also very generous when it comes to sharing care for someone else. I have to remind myself sometimes to pull back the level of care I provide to protect myself from people who don't provide me with anything, because all I want is to be loved. All I want is to feel loved and appreciated. And I want to share that feeling with everybody else. I want you to feel loved and seen and appreciated because everyone deserves to. And I am very much one of these people. There are plenty of people who see each day as the milestone. If you get to the end of each day, then that is the thing to feel is an accomplishment, because there are plenty of days where you don't feel like you've earned anything or achieved anything or gained anything. It's just you've existed 24 hours and nothing else comes from that. But being told or shown that you are appreciated can make a huge difference to how you feel day by day by day. Because as you've probably seen or heard before, recovering from anything is not instantaneous. It's a process. And when you are demonstrating appreciation or love for someone, it's a process. It's something that you have to build up. It's not instant. And when it seems instant, it's too good to be true. I am definitely the frog who got boiled more than once. And I would much rather point out that you don't need to live through that. You don't need to be the frog who's been boiled. You don't need to ignore the red flags for temporary validation when there are plenty of people who will appreciate you for who you are, what you have to provide, and that's all it really should take. So if you've been here with me at all during this process, I very much appreciate that you are here, and I hope I didn't bore you too much. Next time I may get you guys to have an idea as to a specific thing that we're going to talk about rather than just an overall checkup, because these check-ins are great if they are helping. They help me. I actually enjoy them enough that I'm going to keep doing them, and I may do them more often as I need more things. I'm going to do a live tonight. I enjoyed yesterday, I'm going to do another one tomorrow. So it's something that if you get something, I would love to know in the comments what you got out of tonight's live stream, what you got out of tonight's video, if all you did was join me after the fact, because timing wise, it's currently, what time are we here in Australia? That's one of the things that's going to be a contributing factor as well, because I'm finding a time in the day which works for me and then working from that outwards. It is 12:29 on Tuesday morning, Tuesday the 4th of February. So it is, if you're in America and you're watching me at the moment, what time is it? Because I want to try and do these live streams at a time that suits me and that suits you, because I do know plenty of you are in America who do watch my channel frequently and who I interact with. But I also know people in Australia who are obviously on my time zone, and 12:30 may not be a good time for those people. So I want to find what works for everyone, and I'm doing this with my phone, so there's a pretty good chance that I can find random other places and go off, and if my microphone's working well enough and this is working well enough visually, I can do this on the go. But at home, I need to do this at a particular time of night so that I've got time to make sure that my kids are all settled, and this way they get what they need and I'm able to be here consistently to hang out with you guys, because it's going to take, this is only the second live stream, so it's going to take a little while to get the hang of where to go from here and what we need to change and adapt. So I don't get much time to be on YouTube during the day, especially during school time. And at the moment, we've got a lot of weekends that we're going away. So there are times when I need to put my family first, especially during this time while Josh is still going through everything, because he's doing better. He's still in recovery, and he's still, the doctor gave him the all clear at this stage. So that's not a full all clear. That's just a right now the tumor that they identified is gone, and they're working from there. But I want to be here for you guys, because, and when other things come up, I'm always saying that this is something that is important to me, because I struggle to find places to talk with people that can understand where I'm at with what I'm doing. And I understand how hard it is to find a support group, because there aren't very many, especially here in Australia, there aren't very many that you don't have to travel a long way to get to. There are not very many that are targeted towards this, basically. So I'm see a need, fill a need. I'm finding that this is something I require, and I've learned that I'm not alone in that requirement. So by having this space, even if there's only a few of us at a time, it's a place where we can all talk, vent, hang out together. And when there are questions about things, if you've got something that you're going through that you need to talk through, then we can talk through that. And if on that particular day I personally just happen to not be feeling great, then maybe you guys can help me. Then it's a back and forth, sharing, caring, loving, appreciating kind of situation, because there's a need. And if that also normalizes the concept of talking about these things, I want to do that too. I don't want people to go through anything negative that they have been going through or that they are going through alone, because I know what that's like and it sucks. There is nothing worse, or well, there are, but there are not very many things that are worse than having a negative life experience and going through it alone. So even if you're not here talking to me at the moment, that's okay. We can catch up. We'll find what day of the week works, because Monday's not really the best day for a lot of people anyway, and I get that. I wasn't able to be here on the 1st, which I think that was Saturday, because I wasn't at home. I was at my mother-in-law's house actually, and at the risk of waking everyone in the house, it wasn't something that was possible at the time. But I'm here, and if we ever have to reschedule, we won't reschedule for like on next month or anything. We will reschedule it for the next available day. So we'll try and keep them as close to the scheduled date as possible. And maybe we'll have some back and forth interactions going on. Okay, so I'm going to head off to bed. Unless, what time would it be? Next time, I might start at a different time in the day. I might ask you guys a few extra questions in the lead up to see what works for you and what time zones work for you, because, and you don't have to be here. You can always just watch one of my other videos. I have some stuff that I'm working on, and I do have baking stuff that I'm working on, but as you can imagine, like I've said, like there's stuff going on right now which is making videos a little bit difficult, because I need to be in the kitchen at a certain time of day. It needs to be quiet. My daughter needs to be in bed because she's at that stage. I was making pasta for dinner tonight. I had to actively remove her from the kitchen because I was rolling the pasta on the bench, and I would have flour on the bench, and I would then put a piece of pasta through my pasta roller machine. And while I'm hanging it up after cutting it, she would be on the bench spraying it down and wiping it clean because I made a mess with the flour, because I was using the flour to make my pasta. Not because there was actually a mess, but because it wasn't perfectly clean. So I had to remove her from the kitchen to stop her from overstressing about the flour being on the bench, and to stop her from cleaning up my bench that I was actively working on. So yeah, but that's the risk. If I'm baking and she's within reach, she wants to help, and sometimes her helping is spraying the bench down while I'm using it, which is actually very cute. I do like that she's got the hang of a few things already, because it's nice to see who she's turning into as a person. It's nice to see and appreciate that she's recognizing these things as a person, and she's trying to get into stuff. But I think she's only doing it because I'm doing it. But we'll get there. And with that, I guess I'm gonna go. Unless there are people turning up. I don't know what time it is in America, that's all. And like, it could be any time. I think it was about this time last time that I had a few people pop in, pop out, but it's a lot more interesting when Nicholas is here, I think, because even when it's quiet in the comments, he chit chats with me in the comments. He gets on his phone and he talks. But I'm going to try and, whether he likes it or not, I'm going to try and drag him out here and get him on camera a little bit. He can be on here with me as well. We can chit chat together, and you can chit chat with Nick. And yeah. Okay, well, I hope this wasn't too boring for you. It's very quiet, and I've got a few more stories that I'll save for next time. So hopefully we can get these live streams rolling a little bit and find a way to increase conversation with people, because this isn't just for me. I want you guys to be able to join in, and if there's questions about stuff you need to work through, then that's something that I'm here for. So, because you name it, I've seen it. You name it, I've lived it. So, or I know someone who's lived it. I've got a lot of experiences that I didn't need to have in life, but there's a reason why God wanted me to go through all these things. If I'm not providing support to someone else, there's obviously some kind of reason why these things have happened to me. But because I don't like the idea of, oh, why me, because I have been there. I have been in the why is this always happening to me, and it always ends negatively in your head when you start thinking that way. So I deliberately don't think that way. I live very, very intentionally. I don't live that way. But I don't know if you saw my shirt. It's on backwards. It looks backwards. I wear my necklace backwards so that you can see my necklace clearly, but my shirt says, "You are enough." And that's a pretty good thing to think about you. And I think you are enough, even if we are nice and quiet tonight, because it's a moonless night. It's quiet everywhere. It's one of those nights where it doesn't matter if it's quiet. So if you're here and you got to the end, or if you're chiming in, or you're still watching me now and you're at the end, I hope you're having a great night or morning. I would love to know what time it is when you're watching this, so leave me a comment, say hello. I do really enjoy reading when there are people talking to me as well. So I will say good night for now. Good morning if it's good morning, but good night for now, and I will catch you next time. Bye.